Hello there, I'm Paul Mitchell, speaker and author and founder of the Human Enterprise. Well, welcome to Enterprise Radio, where we interview transformational leaders from business, the community, sport and the arts. It's really impossible, if you think about it, to lead others until we've learnt to lead ourselves. So in this interview, we focus on self-leadership, the leadership required not just to lead yourself, but to lead yourself to gold medal performance. But not just any gold medal, I am talking about Olympic gold. So my guest today is Kerri Pottharst, who is an Australian Olympic gold medalist for beach volleyball. So no matter what goals you're going for in your personal or professional life, Kerri's lessons will really help you get there. You'll hear her talk about the years of training required for success and how the learning never stops, that it's never an overnight sensation. The importance of resilience and resetting new goals when everyone else has possibly given up the ghost and maybe even given up the ghost on you. How role models make a huge difference. How nothing happens without discipline. And the importance of sometimes making really tough calls based on your gut feel, not just logic, not just the data. So let's listen in to Kerri's amazing story. There's an old saying, it doesn't get much better than this. So just imagine this. It's the year 2000. It's the Sydney Olympics. The Sydney Olympics. Yes, it's your hometown. And you're on Bondi Beach, an absolutely iconic landmark of Australia, if not the world. And there, in those final minutes, you win an Olympic gold medal, perhaps the epitome of sporting and personal excellence. Well, that's exactly what our next guest on Enterprise Radio has done, Kerri Pottharst. So welcome to Kerri Pottharst. For those of you that don't know, and I would suggest there's very, very few, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about who you are, Kerri, and your journey in going for gold.
Well, if you were anywhere near a TV set or a radio about, I say, 13 years ago, in the year 2000, there was a little game of beach volleyball happening at Bondi Beach. That's probably what I'm most remembered for. Myself and Natalie Cook took out the gold medal in front of 10,000 screaming Australians.
Wow.
Against the Brazilians, who were the favourite for the event, and we knew we were going to match up with them in the event. That was kind of, like you said, it was the peak of my career, I guess, at 35 years old, winning a gold medal in front of my home country, in my home state.
Yeah.
Just on the wrong side of the bridge, because now I'm a Northern Beaches girl. But
well, there's always another there's another hurdle to push through. So that's, I guess, one of the things you're most known for. But you're a lot more than that. Who are you as a person, apart from an Olympian and a gold medalist?
Well, before I got to that point, obviously, I'd been slogging it out for over 20 years, playing volleyball, indoor volleyball first, and beach volleyball. So I've been an athlete, sport has been my career, I guess. I haven't been paid along the way as a career, as a sports person, until I started playing beach volleyball. So the first 10 years of my sporting career, I had jobs just to pay for me to play for Australia. So I did my dues then, laid down all the foundations, and then had a fairly serious knee injury in my mid-20s, and that was pretty much the end of my indoor career. And at that point, because I'd been so focused on sport, I really didn't know what else to do. So I tried to make a comeback, couldn't make it back on to the indoor floorboards, and decided to try the softer surface beach volleyball, and away I went for another 10 years. I retired in 2006. I'm now a mum. I have a beautiful husband and a beautiful young son, Tyson, who's 7. I love gardening. I love just looking after my home, and I still enjoy travelling. I do a lot of motivational speaking around the country and occasionally overseas, which is always nice. get a nice trip overseas. I've been a coach in my sport. I coached for a couple of years on the world tour, so I've been in a leadership role as a coach and also in my team. And now as a mum, I guess it's probably the most important leadership role I've ever had.
It's the one, isn't it? Well, there's a lot of lessons there for leaders too, and we're going to touch on those. First of all, I guess, nothing happens overnight. 20 years of hard slog. So for many people that, want to be overnight sensations and go from grad to a CEO in a couple of weeks, it's a different story. The reality is a different story. The other thing I love too is you did it for the passion too. Another great lesson is how do we bounce back? Your knee injury, it could have been the end of it, but you looked around, you looked at other possibilities, as all great leaders did. You had that resilience in you, and you knew that this could just be the beginning of something else, not the end of where you were going. I love also the fact that you talked about being a mum as the greatest leadership role. How's Tyson as a lad? Is he following his mum's footsteps?
Well, he seems fairly sporty. He's also following his dad's footsteps. He's a Canadian, so he grew up with ice hockey and snowboarding, and was very talented in himself as a sports person. Never at the sort of national level, but within his own right. So yeah, Tyson has no chance of not playing sport. He loves it anyway, which is good. But yeah, look, it really is, at 7 years old, it really is important, and I'm really noticing it more and more. He's learning so much every single day that it's so important for me to be a great role model, and for the things that I do every single day, I need to be thinking, well, he's watching, he's listening, he's learning. So I think I'm learning even more, and I feel like I never feel like I've learnt enough about anything. I always feel like I'm learning every single day.
It's the mark of a great leader, isn't it? We talk about leaders are learners, and the other thing too is we cast a big shadow as a leader. I love the fact that you're so aware of that he's watching your every movement. And it's not necessarily what you say; it's what you do that really counts, which once again great leaders get. So tell me, you're a great influence on his life. Who have been some of the great influences on your life to give you that mindset and that determination to do what you've achieved?
Well, when I look back at my childhood and my teenage years, I had a very strong father. He's passed away now, but he was from German descent, very tall, very loud, very outgoing. He was a salesman in his early years in Australia, and he was a lot of fun. Always laughing at his own jokes more than anybody else.
Dad jokes, I think we call them now. Yeah.
So, I loved him so much, and I think he was a great influence in sport. My parents always encouraged me to play sport. They were there to take me to every event, every training session, rain, hail or shine, whatever time of day it was, they were always supporting me. Although I didn't start playing sport until my mid-teens, about 15 is when I picked up volleyball, so that was quite late. And from then on, it wasn't long that they had to drive me around, because very quickly I got my license, but they supported me the whole way, and they were my biggest fans. And then I guess through my indoor volleyball career, I played for Australia for 10 years on the indoor volleyball courts. I had an amazing coach in South Australia, Sue Dancy, she was tough.
Right.
There were times when I didn't like her and the team was annoyed with her or frustrated with her, but she pushed us in a way that just got the best out of us. It was really, at the time, I didn't feel it. I didn't know what was happening, and most of the time I didn't like her. But then when you look back, I absolutely love her for the tough love that she gave us, and I think I've kind of picked up a bit of that myself.
Another great leadership lesson too. One of our programs, Why Should Anyone Be Led By You? We talk about a definition of leadership as a leader excites people to exceptional performance, and exciting isn't just like jumping up and down and rah-rah, it's raising the standards, it's being tough sometimes, and obviously the exceptional performance came because of it, if you say that tough love. And I wonder about your dad too. I know it's a stereotype, but we have this but the discipline often associated with that Germanic background, was that also of your dad's ilk?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my parents being really full on with us with discipline, table manners, politeness, all sorts of manners on and off the court, I guess. But in a fun way. Still, we had a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time outdoors. We spent a lot of time playing sport, different sports that we could find. We didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up. We grew up in Adelaide. So we'd go camping, we'd go to the beaches where you could go with your cars on the beach, and we'd just unload the car.
And I bet you didn't even know at the time you didn't have a lot of money. You
No.
just had a life.
I just thought this was great. Life. I probably thought we were rich.
Yeah. Well, you were.
It was amazing.
You were in many ways. And so, do you think that discipline that your dad had, and the discipline he gave you around doing the right thing, manners and so forth, flowed into your life as an athlete?
Absolutely. I think being disciplined within a team was really something that I learned early on, whether it was from my dad or whether it was from the environment with my coach, my indoor volleyball coach. We had a really well-disciplined team where we respected each other on and off the court. She always respected us and we respected her, even though at times, she'd push our buttons and but we'd play for her. We'd always lift for her and for the team.
Yeah.
But I find that I have greater discipline in a team environment than I do when I'm on my own.
What a great insight. I know you've talked a lot about team already, the team with family and the team with Natalie and the team with your early indoor volleyball days. I guess there's a great saying, no one makes it on their own. And so talk about that, because your ability to actually work with others has obviously been a major part of your success as well.
Yeah, it has. When I first started playing indoor volleyball, I looked up to all the older members in my team. They were my role models and I wanted to be like them. And I think that's an important part of me going up a ladder in anything that I've ever done is I look up. I don't look down, I don't look around, but I look up to the person who's got the skills that I want to achieve. And I try and model myself in a sense on them, and I want to be as good as them. And then I look up to the next level and the next level. So I started off wanting to be the best in my under-17 state team, and then
isn't that incredible?
In my open women's state team. And I'll always remember the moment that I felt like I'd made it. It wasn't the Olympic gold medal.
Wow.
It was a moment when I was substituted onto the court in an international match for one of my role models. And it was only supposed to be for a short amount of time, and I ended up staying on for the rest of the match. Now, I don't even remember if we won or lost. I just remember the feeling of going, oh, wow, I'm going on for this person I've looked up to for so long. I've got to lift.
Yes.
And obviously I lifted to the occasion. I mean, I guess that was the first time.
It'd be like
I was
subbing for
pressure.
Michael Jordan or something.
Yeah.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
But isn't it great that I love that concept? What a great thing for young leaders coming through. Don't look down, don't look sideways, but look up. Look at the people that you most admire and start to take on some of the traits and the characteristics of what they do. Fantastic. So let's talk about this gold medal performance, because obviously you were obviously an overnight sensation after 20 years. And but the discipline and the journey there is an interesting one. And I think if leaders are going to have followers and lead other people, one of the most important things they can do is to learn to lead themselves. And as I said before, winning an Olympic gold is the epitome of leading self. So tell us a bit about how the decision started there and the journey to Olympic gold.
Well, it depends where you want to start that journey. I guess the journey started when I injured my knee at the age of 27, and I was pretty much resigned to the fact that I couldn't play on the hard floorboards anymore. So I set some new goals. And the first thing that I did, and it was because of somebody else, one of my close friends gave me a brand new white volleyball, my boyfriend actually at the time. And the first thing I did, because I basically had just come out of surgery and I was in a lot of pain and I'd lost so much weight already and I was quite depressed. And he said, Kerri, why don't you write some goals on this volleyball and put some dates on it, and then bit by bit kind of work out how you're going to get back to playing for Australia again. And at the time, no one had actually said to me I couldn't do it, but we all just assumed that was it, because I ruptured my cruciate, I ruptured my medial ligament, I wrecked all my meniscus and cartilage, so I blew it to smithereens, basically.
Good job.
After never having an injury in 10 years, I did it all in one lot. So I started to fill the ball in, and it started with just walking in water and running in water, and I gave myself little steps every month to try and get back, and I ended up following that ball, and bit by bit I got to the point where I tried to play again, but after probably 8 to 10 months I realised it was almost going to be impossible. My knee joint just couldn't handle the hard floorboards.
But what I love about that is that once again, from pain and despair, luckily someone came along, but the importance of actually setting a goal, no matter where you're at, setting a goal, having a date, and how wonderful to bring it alive, not just to set a date, but to put it on a physical thing that you could actually see that goal written.
It was the most important part of my rehabilitation, without any doubt, and it gave me hope. It was sitting in front of me, reminding me that this is what I want to do again. Now, whether I get there or not, at least it gave me hope. At least it gave me something to do, step by step by step. Gave me something to focus on. It gave me the ability to look forward rather than focusing on what had happened to me and woe is me and poor me, while all my friends were off travelling around, still representing the state or the nation, playing overseas or whatever. Here I was, sitting on my couch in a little dark house in Adelaide, being depressed, but it gave me something to focus on.
And this is what leaders do too. I love the fact it gave me hope. Another definition of leadership is a leader is a dealer in hope. And you gave yourself hope. And in some tough times that, maybe we're coming out of it now, but businesses have been through some tough times. Give your people something to do. Give them something to focus on and make them look forward. And that's what this did for you too. So that was the beginning. What was next?
Well, after that, I started playing beach volleyball when I couldn't play indoor anymore. And straight away I was successful at it. And I thought, wow, maybe this is something that I can go even further than indoor volleyball with, because it was going to be an Olympic sport for the first time ever. In 3 years' time, I think, at that point. I had 3 years to try and get to my first Olympics. And because we'd had some international success, I thought I'll give it a try. And I was playing with my best friend at the time. And I saw this young whippersnapper by the name of Natalie Cook and thought, well, maybe she's going to make a better partner for me and we can go further. So I had to make a really serious decision at that time. And this was a turning point too, because here was my best friend on one hand, and here was this young girl untested on the other hand. I knew that if I dumped my best friend, literally dumped her to play with somebody else, I would lose her as a friend initially. But I had the opportunity to see how far I could go with Natalie. I actually even asked, as most people do, asked other people's opinions. I asked our national federation, I asked other players, other coaches, who do you think I should play with? Do you think, I'd be better off with this one or that one? And probably 80% of the people told me I should stay with my friend because it was tested and, we knew where we sat. We were the second or third ranked team in the country. And if I played with Natalie, that there were no guarantees that we'd do very well. And our federation even said to us, if you don't finish in the top five in the world in the next two events, we won't give you any funding. So I had additional pressure from them as well. But I went with my gut.
You made the call.
I made the call and I went with my gut because I knew that if I didn't go with my gut, I'd always be thinking, what if? And I'd never give it 100%.
No. And once again, some other incredible lessons for leaders. There will be tough calls that every leader has to make. You can gather the data. You can talk to other people. But at some point, you're paid to lead by trusting your own intuition. And what I love about what you've done here is you just didn't do that you did at least bother to get those opinions, but ultimately backed yourself, backed Natalie, and the rest is history. So this young whippersnapper, Natalie, comes along, and what's next after that?
Well, very quickly, the next big turning point was that we realised in Australia, we already had, because our sport was very new, we already had a wealth of knowledge after only a couple of years or a year together, and we knew that there weren't that many coaches in the country to actually take us to the next level. So we thought we're going to step out of our comfort zone. We're going to go overseas to one of the two top nations in the world at our sport. One was Brazil, one was America. We don't speak Portuguese, we speak English, so we went to America and we literally interviewed coaches. And again, this is a point that I drive home when I'm speaking, is that you need to go out and seek someone to help you get to the next level. You need coaches, you need mentors, you need people that are going to teach you what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. So we literally interviewed 5 coaches on the beaches of California by getting them to take us through a training session. And we found one guy, we gave him a second interview, allowed him to train us again for another session. And then
Beach volleyball idol.
Yeah, and he wasn't a top coach in the country at that time. He was kind of retiring from playing and getting into a little bit of coaching. But we loved his theories. We just connected with him. And his theory was we had to get better really quickly. We didn't have the same amount of hours that the Americans and the Brazilians had under their belt. So we had to find ways of making points very quickly without doing all the extra hours that we needed to do, because physically I still had my knee to worry about, and we just didn't have the time. So Steve Anderson, the coach that we found, he had all these new techniques, and he needed a team to trial them with, and all these new strategies that hadn't been seen yet in our game. And we thought, wow, well,
perfect match.
Maybe this is the key we need. We need to try something new to try and catch up on all those years. So we risked, we innovated, we were unique, we stepped out of the box, we stepped out of our comfort zone, and we made Steve an unforgettable offer. We offered him to come give up his life in America, come and live in Australia until the Olympics. We said, when we're in Perth, where I lived at the time, you can stay in our spare room, and when we're in Brisbane, you can live with Natalie's parents.
I mean, with hotel accommodation like that, how could you say no?
And, well, we also offered him $500 a week.
Oh, gee whiz.
And you know what? He took it. And that's another thing I like to say is that, you know, unless you ask, you'll never find out. There are so many people out there willing to help you get ahead. But unless you ask, you won't know.
So let's review once again. It's interesting that here you are in what people might say, well, how is that leadership? But the leadership lessons here are just coming through in bucket loads. One, no one makes it on your own. You knew that you needed some outside thing. We say you don't see your own stuff. And even at your elite level of performance, it's interesting how you still sort out a coach. For our coaching clients, I think this is a very important point to listen to, so get yourself a coach. The other thing was the sense of urgency. We find a lot of businesses that cruise, that never have that sense of urgency, don't therefore need to look at a different way of doing things. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a business is a major disaster, because it actually creates speed and therefore creates more risk and innovation, and that's exactly what you did. You really stepped out of your comfort zone. And the other thing, of course, is that you don't ask, you don't get. So the courage of doing that. So Steve was taken aboard and living in luxury in accommodation for his $500 a week. And what's the next step?
Well, then we gave him an Aussie tracksuit and went off to the Atlanta Olympics and had an amazing experience there. And the funny thing is, our goal for Atlanta was to win a medal. And yet we found ourselves in the semi-final in Atlanta, where a win on that day was going to get us through to the medal, either a gold or a silver, and a loss would get us through to the bronze playoff. And it really was interesting when I look back now at the different beliefs that we had in Atlanta and in Sydney, because there is absolutely no way we believed we could win a gold medal in Atlanta, whether we said it or not. We believed we could win a medal, but when it really came to the crunch moment, we completely choked, because all we could think about in the semi-final...
We've already got there.
Yeah, well, no, opposite. All we could think about was, please don't lose, don't lose, don't lose.
Okay.
Oh, what happens if we lose? So we kept thinking of the worst case scenario. And this is where I sometimes... get a little bit frustrated, because some people always want to focus on, this could happen, this is the worst case scenario, let's get prepared for that. Well, yes, you need to be prepared, but focus and be more prepared for winning. And this was the difference between Atlanta and Sydney, and I could go into a much greater detail about how we felt and what happened in Atlanta. But in Sydney, the night before the finals, Natalie and I were both lying awake. Neither of us could sleep, and when I asked her a few weeks after what was she thinking about that night, she said, I was practicing my victory speech, and I said, so was I.
Wow.
So that is
how powerful.
It's such a difference.
Isn't
in
it?
4 years, we developed the belief that we could be the best in the world.
And that's at the heart of it. And I love the concept of before you were thinking about not losing, and now you were thinking about winning, and even practicing the fact that you'd already got there, practicing the
and
victory
looking
speeches.
further than the win as well. And this is what on the way to Sydney, we developed our plan, and our plan wasn't just to win a gold medal. It was to become or live our lives with a gold medal excellence, a gold medal standard, and along the way the gold medal would be part of that. So 2 years before the Olympics we put together our plan. It was called Gold Medal Excellence, in fact, and it was like a business plan, and we worked out what we needed to do to beat the best teams in the world, who we needed to be, and we started to be that 2 years before Sydney. So we became Olympic gold medalists in 1998. And then we had a lot of fun with it as well, because our success coach, which is another person we brought on board after Atlanta, because we realised we needed someone to help us with our belief. Our success coach got us to put the plan together, and he also got us to collect gold things. He said, if you want something in your life, start surrounding yourself with it. So we thought, we'll start collecting gold stuff. So we had a lot of fun with it. We told the media about it. We told the media we weren't afraid to tell the media we were going to win a gold medal in Sydney. You know, they would go, well, how can you be so certain? Well, because we're living our lives with gold medal excellence. We're doing the things that we have to do right now, 2 years beforehand. Yeah. And if we do that for 2 years, by the time we get to Bondi Beach, 25th of September, the day of the final, we knew the date. By the time we get there,
it had to be.
It'll just happen.
Once again, look at the lessons here. I love what you just said, Kevin. I wrote down, we decided it wasn't just the goal. It was the goal beyond the goal and the goal beyond the gold. It was to live our lives at a gold medal standard of excellence. And the gold medal was simply a representation of that. The importance of belief and the importance of surrounding yourself with what you're going to be, not just achieve. So tell us about the gold. If you surrounded yourself with gold, what gold did you surround yourself with?
What, gold or gold?
Gold. You said
we collected gold stuff.
Gold,
so anything,
gold stuff, yeah.
Anything that came in the colour gold. So it would just be in our vision every single day. So Natalie Keurig, our success coach, asked Natalie, or said to Natalie one time, if you want a gold medal, you need something to put it in. So she got herself an upside down fish tank, had a bit of gold edging around it, so she bought it in a fish shop. She put some wood underneath it and she started filling it with gold things, and she put her dad's gold medal from some soccer tournament. I remember collecting gold, the Easter eggs from Easter that year, and keeping the ones, not eating the ones that were coloured gold. Natalie had gold boxes. What else did we have? I had a little gold glass that I brought. We had gold volleyballs. We had gold uniforms that we had Speedo make us. Anything that we had an option to buy or to use or to get, or if people were giving us, they'd give it to us in the colour gold, because it became a theme. It was just a fun theme. Yeah. And I think the reason why I look back and think that was a good thing, it wasn't anything to do with winning that volleyball match. It was the fun.
Yeah, which created the energy.
Yeah, it created the energy, and it's just a whole part of the whole vision. It was maybe a 3% part of the whole vision and the whole planning, the whole environment that we surrounded ourselves in. But it was the fun part too, and I think sometimes when we get too serious about a goal, then we lose the fun part, and it just gets all too hard. And I think we've got to keep that there. And
that lightness there.
And and I'll remember one person who said something to me at the Olympics, and her name, I think everyone will know, is Dawn Fraser.
Wow.
After our first match that we nearly lost at the Sydney Olympic Games, we came out in front of 10,000 people, and it just blew our minds. Every time we won a point, it was just so loud, the scream of celebration. And then every time we lost a point, there was just a really loud, we feel so sorry for you. And so we were going up and down.
Overwhelmed almost.
It was incredible. So we were so nervous. We almost lost, but we didn't. We won, finished off the match, and after the game, Dawn Fraser was in our area, in the athlete area, and she said, "Girls, you forgot something." And I'm thinking, what? Give us some, amazing thing that
pearls of wisdom
that we can bring into our next match. And she said, "You just forgot to have fun. You got to have some fun." And we just we looked at each other, and we knew that was part of our plan. We knew how important it was, and it was exactly what we'd forgotten to do. It was just to enjoy the moment. Not run around and be silly, but just actually enjoy it rather than be freaked out by it. So by the time we played the final 5 matches
you
later,
were having fun.
We were really enjoying it. And
isn't it interesting? Because if people go, well, it's business, or it's either fun or it's business. But this was tough business, winning a gold, but you also made it fun. It wasn't what we call the tyranny of the or, is it going to be fun or is it going to be hard work? It was both. Yeah. It was fun and hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know, having heard you speak once, and for our listeners, so we'll talk about later on, but Kerri, if you ever want a motivational speaker to come to your organisation, you will not find anyone better in the world to lift the performance of your people. And I do remember one of the things you talked about was the looking in the mirror with the goal. You want to talk about that? I think that's an incredible example of surrounding yourself with goal.
That was another thing. Natalie did that particularly well, and I learnt that off her. And that was really creating that vision daily of what she wanted to achieve. And she stuck a gold disc on her mirror in her bathroom. So she put it in a place where she would stand and brush her teeth. And every morning it would look like that gold disc was sitting on her chest. So it's just a constant daily reminder of what she was out to achieve.
Wow, love it. A constant daily reminder staring you in the face and literally in the face about what's going to happen to you.
And we're so busy every single day. There's so many things we have to achieve, and especially as women, and I'm no disrespect to all the male listeners, but often we've got family on top of career and our own health and fitness and everything else. And I know just sometimes with nutrition, I've got to remember to get all little things ready. Otherwise, I'll just go to the pantry and eat the wrong things, I shouldn't even have them in there, but, do you know what I mean? So you just have to be reminded daily, and I'll put up lists, or I'll put pictures up or something to remind me of what I'm trying to achieve.
So the constant thing, I guess, for leaders is, don't just give people figures at the end of the week or month or whatever. Have them up on the walls. Have something visual there that people can look at, so they can also gather around and make it come to life, as you said, to visualise it.
It was like the ball when I wrecked my knee, having the ball in front of me every day.
And so take us to that final game, and maybe so you've just scraped through without a lot of fun, and then decided from now on you're going to have fun. Take us to the next steps in the next games.
The next game I think was Italy. And then we played China, then we played another American team. We played a Brazilian team. So we beat both the Brazilian teams, who were both the top teams in the world. Yeah. It definitely wasn't a fluke. It was all part of the plan. But it was our plan and our goal to have beaten every team in the world before we went in there, to give us that little bit of hope. But you know what? We'd never won not an Olympics even, but a tournament leading into that, an international tournament. We've won everything in Australia, but we'd never won a World Tour event out of probably up to 50, 60, 70 that we'd played.
Gee whiz.
And we'd come second, third, fourth, fifth so many times, but we'd never got the gold medal.
How badly did you want it, Kerri?
I don't know if I wanted it badly. I think I don't know if I wanted that's a really good question. I've never been asked that, ever. In 13 years I've been asked a lot of questions. I don't think I really wanted the gold medal. I think I wanted what it was going to give me, as in the person it was going to make me.
Wow.
I knew
what a difference.
I would just be, I guess in my coach's words, we would become legends in our sport. We would become amazing, learned individuals. It would be a personal development journey, which is what they took us through.
What your answer reminds me of how far I have to go, because here's me focusing on what you're going to have. Yet I tell leaders, who are you going to be? Yeah. And your answer has told me, yes, it was important to get it, but what was more important was who you were going to be as a result of this. What a fantastic wake-up call for every leader. You go out there thinking about what you're going to do that day, what you're going to achieve, what numbers you're going to hit, how you're going to win market share. Whereas the real leaders are focusing on who they're going to be.
Yeah.
So, and maybe, I guess, by the time you got there, you'd visualised it so much, it was a bit of a natural flow. So that last game, wow. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, when I look at the video, because obviously I can't remember much of it, because it's just, the minute the last ball hit the sand, everything was just a complete frenzied blur. But I think when I look at the video and try and remember how I was feeling, I was just thinking point by point. It was doing the job. I wasn't thinking ahead. I was just doing the job. What I have to do. How do we make this better? How do we make this better became our slogan. We learnt that at the Olympics prior, because we had such a massive opportunity to win that semi-final, and we let everything get to us. So how can we make it better became our slogan. And so every point it was just like, okay, what are we going to do next point? Okay, what are we going to do next point? Okay, now, and it was all the strategy came into one. The confidence was there. I mean, the last 3 serves, I served an ace and 2 really tough balls to get us over the edge and win the match. And I think going back to serve those balls, which I'd done many times, I had a routine. I mean, as most athletes do, they have a routine when they need to be their best. And my routine was simply 4 or 5 words.
And those words?
They were ball, foot, line, toss, hit. So I would hold the ball, I would wait for the whistle, I'd look at the ball, I'd have 1 foot forward, I'd look at the line where I wanted to toss the ball above, forward in front of me, I'd toss and then strike the ball. So that routine I used when I had a lot of distraction around me and I just need to focus back in, because my serve was such a big weapon and it made us a lot of points. And so sometimes I actually verbalised it sort of in my head, other times I didn't. But when I really needed it, I'd just done it so many times in the years leading up to that, I could just go ball, foot, line, toss, hit, and would just bring me straight back to the action. And
a great learning for all leaders as well too, that the best have routines, the best have rituals. There's so much going on. I remember talking to a pilot once, and he said, as much as there's all this on automatic and there's all these instruments, even when they land, he still goes through BUMF, BUMF, brakes, undercarriage, mixtures, flaps. And you'll find that the more professional you are, the more you have these amazing rituals. I also love the fact that once you set the goal, it was just point by point. You know, what leader could just point by point make the call, do the follow-up. And then the other thing, this incredible passion to make it better. How do we make it better? How do we make it better? How do we make it better? So you made it better, and can you remember much about the crowd and what they were saying at the time?
Well, it was interesting because I liken the crowd during that match, and it took the entire Olympics to get me to that point of just being a blur. It was like having glasses on that aren't your glasses, and everything's blurry. You're looking out, and like having earmuffs on, you can hear there's a lot of noise, but you can't hear the specifics of the noise. And then when that last ball landed out, because I had to follow it, it was part of what you're taught to do, run, make sure it's not going to. I knew it was going out.
No matter what, follow it through.
No matter what, yeah. And I saw it go out, and then I collapsed on the ground, and Natalie collapsed on top of me. And then when I looked up, it was kind of like the glass sort of shattered, my glasses shattered, and the earmuffs
and you
came
heard it
off.
For the first time.
Yeah, I heard them, and I looked up and I saw all these faces, and all of a sudden I could see the faces, and I had no idea where my family was. And it's really interesting because it's very different for Natalie, because she was the crowd jester. She would be like cheering and waving her arms, getting them excited for her, and she'd be right into it. She knew where her family was and everything. It was just different how we both were able to sort of focus under those conditions. So I had to block everything out to enable me to focus on my team, whereas Natalie could go in and out and in and out. Maybe if she'd focused more, she would have played better. I don't know.
You see, even now, listeners, how do we make it better? How do we make it better? But it's also interesting too that you are very different characters. For people who know you, you are very, very different characters, and yet that diversity is what makes up a great team.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I mean, I was like a mother figure in a sense, big sister, but then at the same time had to be her peer and be equal and let her lead too, because we couldn't have one leader in our team of 2. We had to both lead at different times. So we led when the other one needed to be led. And that took a while, and it's like a marriage, it's like a relationship. It takes a while to work that out. You have to kind of tiptoe around a little bit sometimes and test the waters, but I think there are times when I really needed Natalie to help and lift me, and other times when she needed it from me, and other times when you think the other person needs it and they don't, and you end up fighting.
Because I don't need your
I
input.
don't need it, get away.
And once again, the great leaders, I've never known a great leader who didn't also know how to be a great follower.
Yes.
There's a time to actually, so your leadership sometimes is your followership, your capacity to be able to follow. Tell me about one time, I do remember you talked at one of your tremendous keynotes about how they were yelling out at one point for the USA, USA, USA. And I mean, what do you do when someone's yelling that? How do you turn that around? Because we talked about leaders, no matter what happens, reframe the situation so it's in your favour. Tell us what you did then.
Yeah, that was actually in Atlanta. We were playing the Americans for the bronze medal.
Right.
And we had already started to think, well, let's kind of get into a better frame of mind. How can we make this better? And we sat down in a timeout and I said to Nat, oh, God, that chant, that USA, USA, it's really starting to get to me. And she just kind of looked at me and said, Kez, turn the letters around. USA. Oh, I'm like, USA, USA, what does that stand for? Oh, you mean AUS? And she said, yeah, they're cheering for us.
They're just, all those Americans are just dyslexic.
That's right, they've just got it back to front. And of course, the first thing I did was laugh.
Yeah.
Or just kind of give it a like, no. And then we went back out onto the sand and they started chanting again, and we looked at each other and started sort of just singing AUS, AUS, and it just relaxed us. It really just relaxed us and made us forget about, or change the situation. Instead of it being a distraction, it was an attraction,
But it didn't change the situation. It changed your ability to believe with it. This is the whole thing. You reframe that situation.
Exactly.
Sometimes in life you can't change things, but you can certainly change your response to them.
Exactly, and that's what we did. And like I said, instead of a distraction, it was an attraction.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, I mean, that's what you've done then, and knowing you, I mean, and listeners, I can absolutely assure you that Kerri's best years are yet to come.
Oh, I hope so.
Absolutely. So, what I know there's many parts of you, but what would you like to be remembered for, and what's ahead for Kerri Pottharst?
I would like to be remembered for just being a good person and being good at what I do. When I say being good, putting in the best effort, always giving 100%, always being loyal, being respected, the things that I really hold important, respect and loyalty, and being a great mum. That's the most important thing for me now, is just to bring up a beautiful child, and being a good wife and a good friend to my girlfriends. I've done all the sports stuff.
Yeah,
I don't need to be remembered. I've got enough memories. But
absolutely, it's time for pushing ahead.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I guess our listeners should know is just how much you give back. I don't think I've ever been to a charity gig where there isn't a something signed by yourself, or a keynote that you're giving to support various charities along the way. I also know too that one of the ways you're giving back now is to sharing some of these strategies in the personal world and the corporate world. For the listeners, I've had the pleasure of hearing one of Kerri's keynotes, and it's absolutely superb. It's so motivating and so many takeaways for people. And I know you've also got workshops that you do, and also some longer term programs, and of course your book. Could you maybe tell our listeners about some of the things you are doing now, and if they wanted to, how they could get access to you?
Access to me, well, through you, of course, if they wanted to. Also, I have a website, which is kerripottharst.com, so they can email me info@kerripottharst.com. But what I'm doing these days, and have been doing for many years now, is motivational keynote speaking. And you know what? I absolutely still love it. I still love telling the same stories, because even today, every time I speak, I remember something else, or some other point comes through. And I think the journey of a sports person, especially when they've been through so many things like that I've been through, in 2 different sports, and major injuries, and Olympic Games, and wins, and so many losses, is there's so many lessons that you can get from it.
Absolutely,
and the lessons they just come out in reams, I guess, when I start telling my story. And so, keynote speaking. Look, I wouldn't have thought 13 years down the track people would still love listening to me speak, but they obviously do because I'm extremely busy, travel around Australia frequently. But just recently I've realised how much I motivate people one-off. And I know because I get a lot of feedback through social media, but also just on the day, people will come and say, well, that was great. Now I'm going to do this. And you've re-inspired, you've reignited my passion for this or that. And I think
Isn't
that's
that tremendous?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But I know that in a few days' time or a couple of weeks, they'll have forgotten it. And so what I want to do now is get out there and spend a greater amount of time with people. So I've developed a 4-month program, a corporate athlete program, where I want to obviously inspire and motivate people, but also educate them on how they can get more out of themselves, more out of their bodies, more energy out of their bodies so they can live a really fulfilling life in their careers, but also have the balance in their personal life. So it covers mindset, which I talk a lot and we've talked a lot about today, nutrition, hydration, movement and recovery. And I've specifically gone away from calling movement fitness or exercise, but just movement. And
recovery is such a big thing for leaders too.
Massive. And, you know, as an athlete, I never trained as many hours as you would work at your peak. You know, you guys are working 40, 50, whatever hours a week, however many weeks a year, and often for 4 decades. But as an athlete, and I had a long career, 20 years, I never worked that many hours, but I had a lot of recovery and downtime so I could peak in the times that I was playing. So, you know, it's so important, the recovery side of it.
We forget that, don't we? Recovery with family, recovery for self. Just emotional recovery as well too. And how do we that program? How long is it? How long is it with a month? 4 months. 4 months, right?
Yep, 4 months. Because I want to be able to hold hands with people along the way. So I want to start off by inspiring them, motivating them, and getting them excited. We're going to set some goals. We're going to make some plans. We're going to break up into groups and look at the different areas, and then they're going to go back and try and change the environments within their work stations or their groups back in their different departments, and then come back in every couple of weeks and we'll learn something new, and then also do some one-on-one coaching with them as well.
Wow, tremendous. So I would think that would build an amazing team, which you talked about. I would think it would build amazing resilience for the individuals, and it sounds like it's got a lot of stickiness because it's 4 months and they get the personal one-on-one as well. How many would you have in a group, Kerri, when you do that program?
I think 20 is a good number. Anything more than that gets too diluted. Anything less than that, we're more one-on-one, which is great, but 20 is a good number, good value for money for the corporate. And at the end of it, I want to have some fun. I'm going to take them all out onto the beach and play volleyball with them. There's the fun part to finish off and bring them all together at the end. True
to your values as you talk. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to learn about you as as not just the athlete that you are, as really now the corporate trainer and facilitator that you've become. And just wanted to say what an absolute pleasure it's been to interview a great Australian, a great Olympian, but as our listeners have heard, an even greater human being. So Kerri Pottharst, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I just want to say too that I'm learning from you. So you're my next step up. I'm looking at you. Watch out.
Here's looking at you, kid. Thanks, listeners. We'll see you next time on Enterprise Radio.
Thank you.
Well, how great was that? I mean, the leadership lessons just pour out of Kerri, don't they? Things like the importance of rituals and discipline, ball, foot, line, toss, hit. The importance of having a success coach. We'd love that to be us, by the way. How visualising your goals is essential. How you can achieve and have fun. They don't need to be mutually exclusive. And what about belief? And how to reframe barriers when the going gets tough. But the lesson I will live with forever is not just to focus on the goal, but what that goal will do for you. And for Kerri, of course, it was how to live their life with gold medal excellence. So if you want to help your people get that energy that Kerri spoke about and achieve gold medal performance, please get in touch with her for her keynotes, maybe a copy of her book, or for a longer program that she spoke about. And again, and we'll leave this for you on the site, it's info@kerripotthirst.com, or just call the Human Enterprise. We'll give you Kerri's details. So I hope you've really loved this Enterprise Radio interview with Kerri as much as I have. I'm Paul Mitchell, speaker and author. How will you live your life with gold medal excellence?